Hey, what's up, and welcome back. My name's Dalton Daughtry, and I'm excited to share with you today just some tips and tricks and principles on calendar planning. So, when I was wrapping up college, I started my first business. I was engaged, so I started to go down the path of having to navigate two calendars. I was in a position where I was entering the workforce full time, and I was figuring out how to manage my time. And it always felt like I never had enough time to get anything done. And the reality was, I was a student. I wasn't taking a huge course load. I was working part time. I had a ton of time during the week, and I was wasting a ton of time during the week. And because I was not good at planning, it always felt like I was overwhelmed, like I couldn't accomplish much as I wanted to accomplish. And so when I started to actually implement calendar planning in my life, I started to get really good at being productive, really good at being effective with my time management. And ultimately, that ended up allowing me to not only succeed in a corporate career, make multiple six figures, scale up a business to dozens of people, lots of revenue, but also launch another business, publish a book, train for Ironmans and marathons, and manage my marriage, and still take vacations and still enjoy a good life. And so, what I want to share with you today is just simply a couple tips and tricks to where you today can start being more effective with your calendar planning so you can get more out of life and not always feel stressed out. So I wake up every day with a plan. Every single day in my calendar, I have exactly what I'm going to be doing for most of the day. Now, I cherish some white space in my calendar because that allows for me to put out fires or work on creative projects, etc. But for the most part, I'm pretty regimented. So I'm going to wake up, I'm going to do my Bible study, I'm going to do my gratitude journal, I'm going to go on a run, I'm going to come back from my run. I'm going to take the same vitamins, drink the same post run shake. I'm going to eat the same breakfast, usually. Then I'm going to get ready. I'm going to go straight into the workday. So I'm going to work my plan. I have meetings on the calendar, I have projects on the calendar. I use Google Calendar as my primary source. And so I have multiple Google Calendars. They're all synced up with each other. And I just time block stuff. Let's say it's not a meeting with somebody, but it's something I need to get done. Let's say it's maybe a habit or a routine I want to implement, I literally carve that time out on my calendar and I put what that habit is. And then during that time, I'm just intentional about actually doing the thing that I said I'm going to do. So if you were to look at my calendar right this minute, anything I described today, I've done it. The way I like to navigate planning my time is I like to batch meetings. So I like to schedule meetings all succinctly. I don't want like a meeting and then a bunch of white space and then a meeting. I want to compress all those meetings together so I can just knock them all out. I want to leave lots of white space in the morning. So lots of room for me to put in a sauna session, for me to work on maybe my newest book, for me to maybe meditate or spend time with my wife. And then in the evenings, I also like to leave some white space and I'll fill that with a workout, maybe a hypertrophy or a weightlifting workout. Or I'll use that time for going out and about and networking or working on more creative projects, etc. The whole day is fairly structured. I like to do the bulk of my work between 9 to 7, sometimes 9 to 5. Sometimes I take some time off and I've learned my routines and I've learned my preferences. And so then I adjust my calendar accordingly. Calendar planning isn't a one time event, it's something I do constantly. I live vicariously through my calendar. In fact, for the most part, I'm not concerned at all about what the next day holds as long as I know what I'm going to be doing in the morning because everything's mapped out. All I have to do is reference my calendar. This is where I'm supposed to be. That's what I'm supposed to do. This is the task that I've got to work on. And the best recommendations I have for somebody getting started, use Google Calendar. It's the best. I've used Motion, I've used Apple Calendar, I've used Outlook Calendar, I've used the Calendar app, I've used all kinds of tools. Google Calendar is the simplest, it's the best, most effective. Have Google Calendars that are integrated. So if you have a work calendar, integrate it with your personal calendar. And that way you have a one homepage screen to where you can see everything you have going on. If you have multiple businesses, perhaps sync all those calendars together. If you've got to that point, you probably have figured this out, but it helps to have all this stuff synchronized and in order and just have a simple dashboard to where you could pull it up. I recommend add the app to your phone and then even one step further, add the widget to your home screen that shows the next few agenda items for the day. So my primary apps that I look at throughout the day are going to be my number one is going to be my calendar because if I know where my time's being invested, if I know where I'm supposed to be, if I know what I'm supposed to be working on, then very simply all I have to do is show up. And I may not be the most talented or the most skilled or the smartest, but I can show up. And so I don't use to-do lists hardly anymore. I don't use them as the primary source of my productivity. Now, if you were to look to my left right here, you would see, in fact, I can probably even show you. I have a long to-do list right there. I wrote that yesterday and I started basically checking stuff off. But here's the way I did it. I wrote that list out. I took those items and I calendared them, and the ones I could do immediately, I just did. I knocked 3 or 4 of them out pretty quick. But the rest I put on my calendar as a Google task that shows up on my calendar or as an event. And now I'm good to go. I just got to show up. I got to knock out the task or knock out the event as that time rolls around. These are just a couple simple tips and tricks. The most successful people manage their calendars diligently. They are bullish on their calendar. If I ever ask somebody, hey, what's your availability? And they aren't sure or they tell me multiple days, I can tell that person doesn't use their calendar. If you ever talk to a successful person, that person uses their calendar diligently. And whether your goal is to optimize for maximum productivity, maximum rest, optimal time for recovery, lots of time for creativity, it doesn't matter. What matters is you set up a system and you follow that system. And that system then allows you to take all the things that need to be done out of your head, put them and document them in that app. And then now you don't have to carry around the burden of trying to figure out, was I obligated to this? Did I commit to that? And ultimately, this will create more productivity for you. The better somebody gets with their calendar, the more productive they become. It's just as simple as that. So, a couple simple tips and tricks to get started. Go ahead and create a Google Calendar. Go ahead and list out all the things you have committed to already. If it's classes, if it's workouts, if it's work, put that stuff into your calendar. You'll notice there's an overarching structure. And then start actually placing in the calendar things that you want to do that you're not really maybe the best at doing. I want to read a book. I want to actually learn a skill, whatever the case may be. And then what I would encourage you to do is as you go throughout your weeks, do an audit. So look back at the end of a day and say, what did I do today? Look back through those times, make notes on what you did, and ultimately use that then to help plan for the future. Calendar planning works works looking forward to know when you're going to be doing things, when you're going to be off, helps with planning for work and schedules with family and holidays, etc. But it also works in reverse. Where am I spending my time? Where's the majority of my focus going? And if you can get really good at documenting your life with a calendar in advance, but then also following through with what you put into it, you're going to create a very clear line of sight into how you spend your time. And how you spend your time is arguably the most important thing because our time is our life. It's limited. We all have a ticker and we're all going to pass on at some point. And so our time is so limited. And so I would highly encourage you to get very militant about this because it is the greatest, easily one of the greatest differentiators I see between the most successful people and the people that never can figure out how to get ahead. Either way, I hope this is helpful. My name's Dalton. Thanks for joining me. This is part 3 of our 66 video series. So stay tuned. We got another one coming right at you. If you haven't already, subscribe, share this with your friends, and have a wonderful rest of your day.